Hello, I'm back. It's been a while. So, in November, I didn't read as many books as I thought I was going to. And in December, I also didn't read as many books as I thought I was going to. And so far in January, I also haven't. So, I'm going to do my November and December books that I read of last year. And then I'm also going to do a video of my top books from last year, but in a separate video, so don't worry about that. So I'm a little behind, but there's not that many. So we'll start in November. November, I do this thing where I have to read. Excuse me, I'm a little bit sick. I have to read books in a certain order. So it was time to read a book from, actually my first book from the Decolonizing Your Bookshelf book that I read, I think in July. And the first book was a series of short stories by Eileen Chang. It's called Love in a Fallen City. That's one of the stories is called that. I think there were 3 novellas and like 2 short stories. I'm not sure. There were a lot of different stories in here. All of them were good. I gave it 3 stars. It was from the perspective, at least all of these were from the perspective of young women in China after the war, and kind of the struggle or the push to be accepted by your family, especially when you are of the age where it is expected that you get married. And some of them resulted in happy marriages, and many of them did not result in happy marriages. But it was kind of like the whole idea that you won't be accepted until you are someone's wife, which is, I think, something that in Chinese culture is probably still a bit of an issue today, just based on things I've read. But definitely back then, in the 50s, was a big deal, that you were supposed to be married by a certain age. So it's kind of just talking about how the patriarchy existed in China at this time. Good, 3 stars, just because I had to average out altogether. Some of them would have been 4 or 5. A couple of them would have been like 2. The next book I finished was called Work It Out, mood-boosting exercise guide for people who just want to lie down, by Sarah Kurchak, and I gave it 4 stars. I struggle with depression, as I feel like most of you know, and that a lot of the times manifests itself in not wanting to do anything, like barely being able to get out of bed type thing when it's really bad. So it talked about how to motivate yourself to move your body in ways that you enjoy. It gave you different ideas, helped you think outside of the box on some things that I haven't tried before. Some I have tried since. Like kickboxing. I liked kickboxing. Just trying to help you kind of get out of the rut that we sometimes find ourselves in. Not necessarily that it's always depression. It could just be, just the winter blues or a bad day, bad week. But just trying to move for the sake of taking care of your body. Good. I would recommend it if you sometimes struggle with that aspect of being a human. The next one I finished was a 5-star. It is a series of short stories. It's called It Came from the Multiplex. And it was compiled by Joshua Viola. It is all stories not based on, but like it's like an homage to 80s horror. So they're all based like in a movie theater, a drive-in movie theater. They reference movies from that time period, and it was good. I wasn't expecting a whole lot because it feels pretty like low quality is not the word I'm looking for. Like low scale, like a small scale thing that was put together. There are some authors that I had heard of and read before, others that I hadn't. Some that I have read now after the fact because they were really good and I appreciated them. But it was just really, if you like the 80s and that culture of just like grungy horror, like cult classics, then I think you would really enjoy this. There were some really good ones in there. The next book I don't have a physical copy of because I listened to it on Audible. It was recommended to me by someone, a friend. I can't remember who recommended it. And it was the first book by this author that I had read, but I would definitely be interested to read more. It was called Daisy Darker by Alice Feeny, and I gave it 4 stars. It was definitely an homage to, sorry, I've said that word like 3 times, to like Agatha Christie, and then there were none type of deal. This girl goes to her grandma's estate to celebrate her grandma's birthday, and her grandma's birthday is on Halloween, so of course it's, spooky. And her family's all gathered there to celebrate the birthday, and early in the morning / late in the night, her grandma is dead in the kitchen, and there's like a poem that has been left for them to try to discover what happened, and they have to figure out what's going on, and all of their family secrets are getting revealed to each other, and I thought I might have been able to figure it out. I figured out part of it, but the other part I had no idea. So it's twisty. It's not, I wouldn't say it's horror. It's more of like a thriller or a mystery. Definitely a mystery. It was good. It'll throw you for a loop there at the end. The next one I read, I always try to read like wintry based books in December. So I have like a list of scary books that are based in winter. And the one I read a physical copy of was The Shuddering by Ania Ahlborn. It was good. I gave it a 4. Honestly, I could have given it a 5. I think I was just being stingy with my 5s. It's a group of friends, a girl and her twin brother, her friend and his new girlfriend, go to the siblings' house, winter house, ski resort house, in the mountains, and something or someone is attacking people, and they catch wind of it at the ski resort, but they're not too worried about it. Then they go back to the home, and they're entirely by themselves, like stranded in the winter, in the woods, in the snow, blizzard, craziness. And whatever these things are coming out of the forest and trying to pick them off. There was actually a really like kind of cute love story in it, which I wasn't anticipating. It was good, but it was also pretty gory. If you've read anything, I haven't, but follow some groups on Facebook that I guess Ania Ahlborn is she writes some gore in her books. This one wasn't terrible by any means, but there were some moments where you were like, ugh, that's bloody. So scary, just a classic stranded in a cabin in the woods and something's after you, kind of scary. The next one I read was an Audible book, and it was also on the list of winter horror. I'm not entirely sure how it's not horror, if you ask me. It was called The Brief History of the Dead by Kevin Brockmeier. Now listen, I was going into this expecting horror, so I was like hoping for some scares, which is sometimes hard in an audiobook. I don't know, sometimes it's better because somebody's telling you the story, and other times I feel like when I'm by myself in silence reading by myself, it's scarier. It totally depends on who the narrator is. This narrator was I'm not going to say his name. It kind of felt like I was listening to like an AI read, which is not my thing. It was about this, like, the in-between. I don't want to say purgatory because it wasn't like a bad in-between, but it's not like heaven and it's not hell. It's like where you would go. I don't know how to explain it. They call it the city, and it's like where all these people have gone after they've died. And on our Earth, there was a plague, like a virus that was knocking all these people out, and it's kind of like how some of the stories are interrelated, and it kind of walks through like how the virus started, but it was just really, it was rough. I was ready for it to be done, like an hour in. I couldn't get into it. There were parts that I had to like listen to several times because I knew I was just like thinking about what I was going to eat for lunch tomorrow, and it was not my favorite book. If I had gone into it with different expectations, it might have been better. But I didn't, and it is what it is. The next book I read for school, for contemporary lit class, was a book I've heard a lot about in the past, but I have not read it. The Curious Instant of the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. It was good. I gave it 4 stars. No, I don't think I did. I gave it 3 stars. Mostly because it was very contemporary, and like, you know how Seinfeld was a show about nothing? Like, a lot of contemporary lit, I feel like, is just like a piece of time and like explaining what happened during that time, and this is kind of how that was. The redeeming factors were it probably could have gotten a 4 if I'm being honest. It's a kid named Christopher. He's autistic. He lives in Great Britain somewhere. And his neighbor's dog is killed. And he wants to figure out who did it. And so it starts out as he's like writing this mystery book, because his like social worker at school thought it would be a good idea for him to put it into a book format, and it ends up being kind of like a family drama, coming of age. I mean, we do solve the mystery, and the ending is relatively happy, but 3.5. Let's go with 3.5. Does that sound fair? Maybe I should start doing half stars, because I don't think 3 is necessarily fair, but I don't know if it would get a 4. It was well written, and it was a good premise. It just wasn't necessarily my cup of tea, but I liked it for what it was, if that makes sense. The last book I read is because I saw the movie on Netflix, and I freaking loved it, and this is controversial because there are a lot of people who did not love it. Leave the World Behind on Netflix with Julia Roberts and Ethan Hawke and some other people, and well, actually not that many other people, a very small cast. I loved it. I thought it was scary at moments. I thought it was fun in a weird, kind of depressing way. It's not something I would want to watch again and again and again because I think it would freak me out thinking about the potentials, but I enjoyed it. So I picked up the book, like, as soon as I finished watching the movie. Not pre-ordered, but reserved the book online at Barnes & Noble. I was like, gotta pick it up, I gotta read it. Which is bizarre for me because usually I have to, like I said earlier, I have to read books in a certain order, and if I go out of order, I kind of feel like all about it. But I went out of order because I had to read it. So it's Leave the World Behind by Rumaan. And I ended up giving it 4 stars. I don't want to give any spoilers because you might not have seen the movie. But in the movie, there are just some really, like, theatrical moments that are, like, big. I don't know how else to say it. Like, they're big. They feel big. And those parts, for the most part, are skipped in the book, which was kind of a bummer. But the book had redeeming qualities as well because I felt like I had a better grasp on the characters than I did in the movie. There are characters that I strongly disliked in the movie that I even stronglier disliked in the book. And then there's characters in the movie that I liked, and I liked them even better in the book. So it was like a give and a take. The movie I probably would have given 5 stars because it was just really, like, big. I don't have any other words. Like, it was just like, wow. I don't know if I would call it horror so much as, like, no, not sci-fi. It's an end of the world kind of thing. Apocalyptic. So I guess if you consider that horror, which I guess, I mean, like, it kind of is. But it was also really good, like, character study of the people involved. And it was just really looking at the situation from, like, the inside from, like, the eye of the storm, right? Like, we don't know what's going on out there. We don't have answers about, like, what is happening. It's how it would really feel, like, if it were happening to us. Like, we don't know. We're just trying to live our lives and go from one moment to the next. And I really enjoyed the movie, probably more than the book. Not many times that I will say that I liked the movie more than the book, but this is one of those times. So that is my list. I ended up reading 69 books in the year of 2023. One of those I didn't count in my review was Les Mis because I'm reading the unabridged edition now. I'm 76% of the way through, so I'm on page 1088. And I will finish it this year. I don't know when, but I'll count it for this following year, or this current year. I read the unabridged version last year, so I didn't really include that in my reviews. But yeah, so I'm really fallen behind in January because I've been sick. So I'm currently reading an anthology. I'm almost done with it. I think I've got 2 stories left. And then I have February's book club book that I'll be reading. January's book club book is The Ritual by Adam Neville, which I'd already read. It's good. I can't remember how many stars I gave it. It was good. It was weird. There's a Netflix movie about it. Very eldritch horror monster type thing. I think it's like in Sweden. I'm not sure. Anyways, I will see you in a bit. I'm going to record my 5-star books from 2023, and I will talk to you later. Bye.